All right, so Harder They Fall was released yesterday on Netflix, the new Western with pretty much an all-black cast. And this is one of those movies where if I watch it and I didn't quite like it or have a lot of criticism, I'm probably going to hear a lot of feedback in the comments about that. I'll probably get trashed in the comments. Sadly, that is not the case. I liked it and I want to talk about it. Welcome to the D.L. Jones Show. I'm your host, D.L. Jones. And I'm going to be talking about Harder They Fall, the new Western on Netflix. I checked it out yesterday. I had a good night to think about it and a night to sleep on it. And I'm here now to give my little review, give my thoughts on the movie. First of all, before I get into my thoughts, let's talk about Harder They Fall. What is it? If you look at IMDb and you look at the synopsis, it says, when an outlaw discovers his enemy is being released from prison, he reunites his gang to seek revenge in this Western. That is a very basic synopsis. It doesn't really tell you anything about the movie, but I'm going to give you a little more insight on it. I'm not going to be doing this is not a spoiler review because I want you to watch it and get your own enjoyment out of it. But I will tell you a little bit more about the story than what this synopsis said. Now, this movie stars a whole host of people that's kind of been popular in the last couple of years. It stars Jonathan Majors, if you know him. He's from Lovecraft Country, and he's actually been in the Loki series recently. It also has Zazie Beetz. You might know her from the TV show Atlanta and other things. She's been in a bunch of other things. We got, of course, Idris Elba. You know, everybody goes to see a movie if Idris Elba is in it. Regina King, I have to say her. She's in this movie. Harder They Fall. It's a Western on Netflix. I'll be honest with you. I really like this movie. I really enjoyed this movie. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I thought it was very interesting, very stylish. And it was just good to see all of these black actors in this movie, in a movie that is just basically a story. It was a black cast and it followed black cowboys and stuff. It wasn't a black story. It was just a Western, you know, it just happened to have all black people in it. And that's what I like about it. I got a little soapbox on that topic, and I'll get on that a little bit later in this video. It's not long, it's a short one, but I'll get on that little soapbox about black movies and stuff like that a little bit later in the video. And don't worry, it's not bad. It's just it's like a wish that I have when it comes to black movies. Basically, what happens in this movie is the main character, who is Jonathan Major. I know if you look at the trailers, they kind of focus on Idris Elba a lot, and I think he's probably the most well-known actor out of everybody that's in it, so it makes sense to focus on him. But he's not the main character. He's one of the main characters, but he's not the main character. The main character is Jonathan Majors, and basically what the story is about is that he has a group of people that wronged him when he was a child that he wants to get revenge on. He has gotten revenge on every single one of those people except for the boss of that Western gang that he had been, systematically hunting down and killing one by one. And that boss, the reason why he can't get that boss is because he is in prison, and he's been in prison, supposed to be in prison for his whole life. So he kind of was like, well, this is one of my revenge people that he's not going to get. But you come to find out, this guy gets released from prison, and now he's off. So now Jonathan Major's character has to go and gather his little crew. He doesn't have a big crew. He just have a pretty small gang. He has to get them together and come up with a plan to try to get his revenge. And that's pretty much it. It's not a whole lot to this movie. It's basically like a premise, it's like a premise. And I don't think it needs much more than that. There's just a premise. You got the guy that's looking to get revenge on a really tough person, and that's basically the movie. How is he going to get revenge? That's the whole part of the movie, is how is this guy, which seemed like, he's pretty cool and he's good in his own right, but the guy that he has to get revenge on, which is Idris Elba's character, seemed like he's untouchable. Seemed like him and his gang, Idris's and his gang, seem like they're untouchable. You don't know how this is going to work out, But yeah, that's the movie. And the whole fun part about this movie is that the characters are all pretty good. They're all really interesting characters, whether they're the good guys or the bad guys. Every time each one of them are on the screen, every time Regina King is on the screen, every time Lakeith Stanfield is on the screen, every time time Jonathan Majors on the screen, every time Zazie Beetz is on the screen, it's just like you just enjoy watch. Oh, Delroy Lindo is in this movie too. You just enjoy watching those characters have their moments on the screen, you know. And it was a real treat for me. I don't know how everybody else feels about this movie yet. I haven't watched any reviews. I haven't read any reviews. I didn't want to cloud my judgment as far as this, because a lot of times when I really like a movie, I for sure don't want to read reviews because I don't want to cloud my judgment, have people point out stuff that I didn't pay attention to and start changing what I thought about the movie. I don't want that, you know. But yeah, it's just everything on the every time each one of the characters were on the screen and had their moment, it was just a joy, you know. It was a joy. It was so much so that I kind of hated that some of the characters were bad guys, you know. I wanted them all to be the good guys and fighting somebody else, you know. So now I'll get into this. This is not completely without criticism. There was one issue that I don't quite know how I feel about it, you know. Like I was saying in the beginning, there was a lot of scenes in this movie that was really stylized, you know. It's like a lot of scenes that was really stylized, and there was even scenes where it felt like they was trying a little bit too hard. Like there was one scene probably about halfway through the movie where all of a sudden these horses just all lined up and they all sat there, and it's like you could almost see them counting off before they all take off walking. And I don't know. And I guess it kind of reminds me of a music video or something like that in those particular scenes. It wasn't a lot of them, but it was a few of them that I kind of was like, when it happened, I was like, okay, I see what you're doing there. I see what you're doing there. It's not completely natural, but it was only a couple of scenes that was like that. The one thing that I was kind of conflicted about is that the soundtrack of this movie was really good, but it was modern music. You know, it was like reggae and like hip hop beats and stuff like that. And I kind of wish that they put more music that felt of the time that they were supposed to be in instead of like more modern music. It didn't completely take away from the movie. It didn't take away anything as far as my enjoyment or anything, but it did make every time they had like a scene and the music played and it was like some kind of reggae music or something, or like maybe like some hip hop like beats or whatever, it kind of made me, you know, just be like, oh, that's a choice. I didn't know if it was a bad choice or a good choice, but it was a choice that was noticeable to me. You know, I was like, that's a choice. You know, I don't know how I feel about it. I guess I can't say I don't like it. It didn't take away from anything, but I can say I wish they would have used more Western sounding music instead of the more modern music. It kind of, you know, it kind of like the immersion kind of like shifted a little bit. It didn't break the immersion, but it kind of shifted a little bit. It made me think about it instead of making it feel like it blended into what I was watching. But yeah, other than that, you know, which those are very small nitpicks because I didn't have a whole lot of problem with those. Those were more just things that I noticed. But other than that, you know, I really had a lot of fun with this movie. There was a twist at the end that I didn't see coming. I'm not going to spoil it here. I probably shouldn't even have said that there was a twist at the end because I wasn't looking for a twist in general. You know, I thought it was pretty straightforward until it got to the end. But when they did reveal that little twist at the end, I didn't see it coming. It kind of surprised me. And the outcome kind of finding out the option of that twist still surprised me too. Okay, so I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit. I'm not if you've been watching this channel enough, I don't bring it up a whole lot, but if you don't know, I'm also an author. I've written several books. This is one of my books here. This is called Billet Hall. Now, this book takes place back in the slavery days. You know, it's kind of like a horror thriller movie. It's a bunch of escaped slaves trying to make it to a destination. And while they're traveling through the woods and wilderness and everything, trying to make it to their destination, they are slowly being hunted down by some kind of psycho killer. And the thing about this book, when I wrote this book, one thing I wanted to do was I always felt like, you know, you see books about slavery and it's always about slaves being slaves and about people being beaten and all of this kind of stuff. And I always wanted to just write a story that took place in slavery time that didn't necessarily have anything to do with slaves being mistreated. I wanted it to be about just a story that happened during that time frame, you know, and that's what this book is about. Well, what I tried to do when I wrote this book. Still takes place in slavery. You still see the horrors of slavery, but the main story of this book is that you got a bunch of people traveling through the wilderness. It's like a survival horror, and they got some unknown maniac hunting them down, killing them. It's just a story within itself. It doesn't necessarily have to be a black story or a slave story or anything like that. It is just a story that takes place that happened to happen during that time frame with a bunch of slaves. It's the setting is just the only thing that makes it slavery, but the story itself is just a survival horror thriller, you know? And that's what I like. I like when you take a story and you make a story and the focus doesn't have to be on the slavery or the fact that they're black people or this and that. And that's how I felt about this movie, which I liked, is that this is a Western. It's a Western. You got all black cowboys and stuff like that, but it doesn't matter that they're black. This is just a Western. This is telling a story that happened to these cowboys, to these Western people, you know, and it didn't have anything to do with racism or being called the N-word or anything like that. It's just a story that happens with these people. It's just a story that just so happens to be a story focused around a group of people that are all black, you know, and it's good for two reasons. One reason is just that it was just a story. It stands on its own as a regular story Western. And the second thing is that it does bring to light that there were black cowboys. You know, there were black people in that time that were cowboys. I think I read something earlier today that said that 1 in 4 cowboys were black, you know. So while those stories involving the black cowboys were never told, now we have a story that's told with black cowboys, and it's not a black story. It's a cowboy story. Just so happens that this story takes place in the black cowboy community, but it is just a cowboy story. It's a Western, you know, and that's what I like about it. That's what I really enjoy about it. That's what I like to see. You know, of course, you want to see those stories that tell you the horrors of racism and what people went through. Yeah, you want to see those stories, but you also want to just see stories, you know, and not stories where you take a black guy and throw him in a white story, but a story that involves a group of people that just so happens to be black, you know, and that's what I liked about this. It was just a Western, and it was pretty good. You get to see all of these people that you don't normally get to see in these types of stories. They're in this story, you know. Deion Cole was in this. Deion Cole, the comedian, he was in this story playing a serious character. You know what I'm saying? You don't get to see that all the time, and I really enjoyed this story for that. And I don't know, this movie was just pretty good, and I really enjoyed it. But anyway, that was my thoughts on Harder They Fall. It's a really good movie. I would say check it out. I really liked it. One of my highlights of the past couple of months as far as my enjoyment of a movie that I watched. But yeah, check it out. It's on Netflix, so you don't even have to pay for it. I think it was released in theaters a couple of weeks ago, limited release, but just released on Netflix yesterday. If you want to see more videos about me talking about different things that I like, movies, TV shows, stuff like that, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you know when I post up. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. While you're here, why don't you check out that video right there? Or maybe that one right there. And while you're at it, go ahead and click that little picture of my image there and subscribe to my channel.